Hey everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. Just getting the live stream started for tonight's Supergirl Radio live and wired stream. We're going to be talking about the season 1 episode 7. Season 1. Yeah, I guess that's how to say that. Season 1 episode 7, titled Human for a Day. It's been a little bit and since our last trip back into the past. We we went on vacation, got sick, things like that. So we had a little bit of a longer hiatus than we had intended, but we are attempting to come back into the podcasting game and the live streaming game because of not feeling 100%. I think we are only going to discuss the episode for this evening. So for this live stream, we are only going to be doing a rewind. That's hard to say. Rewind back into the past. So we'll save news and listener feedback for next week. So if you have any concerns about not getting your email read or something like that, we're going to save it for the next episode of Supergirl Radio when we feel a little better as a Supergirl Radio. So we're still a little bit down, but we're not out. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up about that we won't be covering news. We're gonna gather all that stuff, and then we'll save it for the next episode because there are a few things to talk about that are of importance and some listener feedback to get to. So our apologies for not doing that for this week, but we have an exciting episode to talk about with Human for a Day. It's probably, I would argue, one of the better episodes of Supergirl, the series. Has one of the greatest Supergirl moments in it, and also surprisingly has a lot for all the characters to do, which is pretty refreshing for me as I go back and rewatch it. All the characters have a little storyline, even if it's a small storyline or a storyline connected to another character. They all have something to do, which is a shock to me after having seen 6 seasons of this series. So to go back is quite refreshing. So if you do have any thoughts you want to share about the episode Human for a Day, just pop a comment in the live chat and we will try to get to it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those questions in there as well. We'll play a few snap judgments here at the end of the stream. So get ready to play that game. I have a really hard snap judgment that I came up with, and it's going to be a real doozy that everybody's going to have to be forced to make a decision on. You have to only pick one. I'm told that Beaker was making some noise, but now it seems like he's the issue is over with. Everything is okay. So I'm going to bring Morgan in. Is everything all right?
We're all good. I heard noise. It sounded like plates rattling together. I was like, well, that can't be good. I feel like maybe he knocked something over. And then I went in and he had jumped off of a shelf that he shouldn't have been on, but he was fine. So all good is with Beaker. Beaker's in the wind now. Bunson's in a box. So we're good to go.
So what is Bunsen doing in the box? Is he just
He's just kind of hanging out? He's just kind of hanging out. We got this big box of cat food that we got through like a discount from Amy actually.
Oh, and nice.
I didn't realize how big the box was going to be, and like they were both really excited about the box and just kept getting into the box. So Bunsen's remained, but Beaker has gone off to greener pastures.
Bunsen's loving that box life.
Hashtag box life.
Yeah, I was telling Morgan that I recently started watching Inside the Mind of a Cat on Netflix, and in it they talk about why cats love boxes. And one of the reasons is it's a very specific thing for them to talk about. It's a documentary all about cat science, is what they call it. So research that's being done on
science.
Research is being done on cats. And from what I remember, they say that cats like to go into the boxes because it's a way for them to hide and pounce on their prey. So it's like instinctual that they can get in something and then they like surprise you. They come out and they surprise you.
Beaker likes to do that a lot. He likes to like he crouches and then I'm like, what's going on, buddy? And then he'll just pounce.
Yeah.
He does that on like for the laser when he's chasing the laser pointer, when you've got like something that you're waving in front of him. And he does sometimes he'll run when we have our Christmas tree up in the wintertime, he'll run under the Christmas tree, crouch underneath it. and then I'll just see his little eyes coming out, and then he'll pounce. So that's definitely true. Didn't
he climb up in the Christmas tree?
Oh yes. Yeah. He enjoyed seeing. Really, he got up to the middle, I guess, and was like, "All the light touches is my kingdom." So that was a great day for him. It's not a great day for us because we can't have Christmas decorations. So that's a bummer.
That is also specifically touched upon in that documentary.
Really?
Inside the Mind of a Cat. They show
a cat watch that.
climbed in the having climbed up in the Christmas tree. So I think it would be educational for you. Yeah. So I guess that's it for Cat Talk. For the Supergirl Radio live stream. But okay, so I guess we should go ahead and get started. We'll take a little trip back in time, and then we will get to talking about the episode.
Leslie Lar's downfall is just that eyebrow twitch that she can't help doing. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse me?
What year is it?
How old am I? This is how the podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! Exclamation point. Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good.
Hi, I'm Benoist, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired on the Supergirl Radio Facebook page and the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel to go back in time. We're going to do a little time traveling because Morgan didn't review a Supergirl episodes as a full-time co-host of Supergirl Radio until the episode World's Finest in season 1, which aired in March of 2016. So we are going to revisit the first season to get Morgan's thoughts on the season 1, episode 7 episode titled Human for a Day. So this is a really big, important episode of the show. So Morgan, I am really interested in hearing your thoughts about it. So we are definitely going to go back in time to do that. But I guess the thing that we need to do before we get talking about the episode is that today is Melissa Benoist's birthday. So happy birthday to Melissa Benoist. And so we just really wanted to take a moment to celebrate our Supergirl's her Earth birthday, if you will, as the show puts it. So we're we're glad that you were able to celebrate another year of life. And to do that, as I do, I bring cupcakes on the live stream quite a bit. So I have another cupcake to celebrate.
Nice.
I need to get some of those noisemakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I looked for sound effects for them and I couldn't really find any. So all I can do is offer a tiny cupcake. Because Rebecca's trying to lose weight, and I can't eat the big cupcakes.
Is important. I like the tiny cupcakes. Sometimes I get a whole cupcake. I'm like, I don't want that much cupcake. I just wanted a little taste. Like I really just want the icing. So they seem like more efficient icing delivery systems.
Have you seen that audio? No, it's a video clip of Anne Hathaway where she talks about how she eats cupcakes.
Is it the way where you cut the bottom in half and you make it into a little sandwich?
Yes.
I've seen that before.
I never thought, why did Anne Hathaway have to teach me that?
I've never tried it though. I feel like I was like, I don't know though. Is it the way that I was supposed to eat the cupcake?
I don't think I can try that with the tiny cupcake though. There's not
a lot of real estate
cake
there for that.
Yeah. I think I need a big cupcake to try that on. But thanks to the actress Anne Hathaway, I now have a new way to try to eat cupcakes. So we'll see if I ever try that and give it a go. Fun fact: people used to tell me I looked like Anne Hathaway, and I was like, "How do you get that? How do you get that?" I think it's because my big buggy eyes. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, you've got big eyes in the brunette. Yeah.
No shade to Anne Hathaway, but I have big buggy eyes, so I think that's it. So that's not important to the episode that we are discussing. But we are gonna get into the episode discussion, and we're only going to be doing an episode discussion of this Supergirl Radio episode because we've taken a little bit of a break. We had a little vacation, a little Dragon Con, a little Disney World, and then Morgan got to feeling under the weather, so we got to get Morgan back to 100%. So we're going to take a little bit.
My like Rocky-esque training to get back in the swing of things. I go up 2 steps and then just sit down sadly. I'm like, oh no, COVID, no.
So because we're still waiting for Morgan to be 100%. We're gonna not do news or listener feedback for this episode. So if you're waiting for your email or you want to hear about the news, we're gonna save that till the next episode. So hopefully we'll give Morgan another week to recover and rest. And
next week I'll give your email the old razzle dazzle. Don't worry.
All right. So just wanted to put that out front so that everybody has the expectations of what's happening for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But now I think we need to go back in time and talk about the episode Human for a Day. I really should prepare myself for the time traveling. I haven't really mentally. It's a physical travel, but mentally you have to really prepare yourself as well.
So we're back in time. We're back in 2015, 2016?
December 7th, 2015.
Remember those days? I barely do.
We should have worn our Christmas best. I think we're
yes.
Should we time our dress, our attire to the episode air dates of the episode? That's a good question.
Every episode, it's like a different season for us. It's gonna be January, but we're gonna be wearing sunglasses and swimsuits.
Well, we'll have to keep that in mind about the air dates of the episode as we tear down, because we want to be in the right time period as we go back
That's
in time.
true.
We want to make sure that we blend in.
At first, I thought you were going to recommend, like, should we wear what we were wearing back in 2015? And I was like, was it that different?
No, really, I just want us to be Brainiac 5 and Nia Nal as they went back in time, because they totally fit in when they did some time traveling in season 6 of Supergirl. They definitely did not stand out at all.
No. They were like, yeah, headbands and overly formal outfits with sparkles. That's what 2008 was all about.
That's what the teenagers are wearing. So when we travel back in time, we probably should blend in with the time period. All right. Well, here is the official description for Human for a Day. Quote, Kara and her friends must rely on their inner strength and courage when an earthquake strikes National City. Also, Alex's mistrust of Hank reaches a breaking point when the earthquake traps them in the DEO with Jem, played by actor Charles Halford, a powerful alien escapee, unquote. Morgan, you remember when they had aliens in the DEO from Fort Ross? That was
Not
a while
really.
ago.
I like a big part of the episode's plot was like, then they'll break out of the DEO and get to the surface. And I was like, the DEO is not like a skyscraper? Because in the later, and then I forgot, oh yeah, in the first season, the DEO is like a subterranean,
It's like a desert facility.
Hidden desert facility that you would, maybe keep your aliens, your Area 51 kind of stuff. It was like that. And then by the end of the show, the DEO was like downtown. It was like in a glass building downtown.
It had a subway stop right in front of it.
Exactly. They're not hiding anybody over there. Like the aliens are just like dancing in the windows over there. There's nothing top secret about the DEO.
They gave
by
tours.
The end of the show.
They gave public tours.
And here's where we keep the aliens. But in the first season, they had it underground, which I kind of appreciated. It felt a little bit more like an undercover, organization that not everybody knew about.
Like it was a secret organization.
Almost as if.
A secret government agency. So we get some alien stuff going. A lot of alien stuff, actually, not just Jem. There's also another alien that gets revealed at the end of this episode. But I guess we'll start because we like to start with Supergirl. What's Supergirl up to? Because it is her show, at least in the first season. It is her show. So let's talk about Kara, because this is a pretty big episode for Kara. She loses her powers. She solar flares after her run-in with a Red Tornado, and now she has no superpowers anymore. So Morgan, how did you think Kara dealt with that?
I thought this I remember this episode from season 1, like watching season 1, and I remember this is like one of my favorites of the season. And but I didn't remember like some of the stuff that happened to her in this episode. Like I had very clear memories of her like talking down the bank robber, not the bank robber, the convenience store robber in her Supergirl suit, although she was human. But I didn't remember that one scene where she tries to save the guy who had gotten into a car accident with like Maxwell Lord and James, and like can't save him. That was really brutal. I did not remember that. And I was like, poor Kara. Like the worst thing in the world for Kara is not being able to save somebody, not being able to do something in a situation like that. And for her to know that like if she could have, gotten him to a hospital or x-rayed him, maybe she could have helped. I think that was really heartbreaking as a Supergirl fan.
Yeah, she could have saved him if she had superpowers. She could have picked him up, used her heat vision, flew him away. So that is really devastating for Supergirl, because she knows that she can help normally, and now she couldn't. She was helpless. My question about that situation, and I agree, that was it was actually kind of hard to watch because she was so devastated. But my question, especially with Maxwell Lord, because his big deal in this episode is human beings should save themselves. We should be able to save ourselves without needing Supergirl.
Yeah.
Well, why couldn't somebody have picked this dude up, put him in a car, drove him to the hospital?
Well, also,
where's the ambulance? Can't you call 911?
I understand
it was an earthquake, but did all the phones go out?
I understood that it was like an emergency situation, and maybe truly, it seemed like truly there was nothing that they could do for that guy. But like his daughter was still there, and the thing that you could have done for her was not explain in excruciating detail how he was going to die. Like, like that to me, I was like, Maxwell Lord, maybe could you chill for 1 second? He's like, oh yeah, he looks pretty bad. And she's like, could you help him? And he was like, well, I was a medical doctor. And she's like, great. And he's like, but this guy's a goner. And this is how he's going to slowly bleed out. And I was like, Maxwell Lord, can you calm down? The lady, the poor daughter is like freaking out. And then like at the end, like towards the end of that scene, like she's crying on his shoulder. And Kara's like, can you do anything? And he's like, I did already. I told you how he was going to die. Like, oh my God, sensitivity training, Maxwell Lord. Just
yeah, not a good bedside manner on that doctor. Oh yeah, that was tough to watch. So Supergirl is having to deal with not only just physical things like breaking her arm and having to wear a sling and bleeding for the first time. She is having to deal with the emotional struggle, and I guess a little bit of a mental thing too, that she just cannot save these people even though she wants to. So she also has to deal with the fact that she doesn't even know if she's going to be able to get those powers back. In that scene, Maxwell Lord says, I don't know, Supergirl might not get them back, so who knows if we're going to be without someone saving the city for a while.
The thing about Maxwell Lord in this episode, and I say this with love, is he's a hater. He's just he's not really bringing, I mean, he's out there, you know, handing bottles of water, but it feels like other than that, he's not really bringing much to the table. He kind of tells Kara, like, we got to all save ourselves. But then like in that emergency situation, he's just like, well, oh, well, just kind of backs up, just kind of leaves. He just leaves the situation. He's like, well, oh, look at that. There's a train over there that is so cool. I haven't seen, and I got to go see that train. Yeah, it's I think to your point where you said like he makes a big deal about like we have to save ourselves now, but he's not like setting up like an I guess he's giving out water and being kind of an emergency response, but there doesn't seem to be, despite the fact that he apparently completed medical school in 1 year, Doogie Howser. He that was an interesting new wrinkle to his story. I was like, oh really? Okay. But I think that's probably why he connects with Alex, because he's like, you too seem like you have gotten your schooling done in an amount of time that doesn't make sense. I don't know what it is that's connecting the two of us. Perhaps it's that our timelines make no sense. He's like
Genius level.
Not out there like giving medical treatment or setting up triage tents. He's just like, water bottle?
Well, maybe that was their biggest need at the time.
Yeah, everybody was real thirsty after that emergency situation.
So Maxwell Lord is out there. He's trying to help. So what did you think about Kara and what she was going through in terms of the things that she was doing, like with the convenience store, the stuff that she had to do with trying to save the people at Catco with James and Wen? So what did you think about all of those ways that she was heroic, both without her powers and then when she gets her powers back?
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting to see a Kara without her powers and to see her kind of spiral a little bit, especially in the beginning where she's like, I have a cold. Like, what is a cold like? And one of my favorite lines is like when after she breaks her arm and she's using James's shirt as a sling all episode, which is a funny detail when you think about it. You're like, wait, she didn't go to the hospital. That's still his shirt. It would be funny if like every time he put on a new shirt, she like took it off and was like, oh no, I lost my sling. So he's just like consistently in his undershirt the whole episode. Like Die Hard style where he's like, stop. I can't give you another shirt sling. I can't do it. But yeah, like when she calls Alex and she's like, breaking my arm really hurt. You could have told me about that. Like Alex would just be like, by the way, don't break a bone. That's painful. But it is really funny to think that like Kara's never experienced a cold. She's never experienced a broken bone. She's never cut her finger on a piece of glass. She just doesn't. I think that was interesting at the end of the last episode when they showed in the previously on where like Kat goes, oh, be careful, like the glass is sharp, and she's like straight in, like hand straight in, because like she's never had to learn to be careful. She's never had to learn to like take care because this thing is hot or this thing is sharp, because she's Supergirl and who cares. And I thought it was interesting to see Supergirl in that scenario when the car starts to come at her. She's kind of like, what? Come at me, bro. And James has to like toss her out of the way because he's like, you're not invincible. You can't, you can't stare down a car that's coming right at you. And she was so I thought it was really interesting to see how Kara reacted to being just a regular person without superpowers.
Yeah, one of my favorite dialogue moments in this episode is when Kat comes into the office and she notices that somebody is sick. She looks over at Kara and she says, "You never get sick. That's the best part about you." And Kara goes, "That's the best part?"
That was like one of my favorite line readings in the whole episode. Just the way that Melissa Benoist said, "That's the best part." Like, so offended. Like, come on.
Surely there's something good about me other than I never get sick. So I really enjoyed that moment in the episode. So this is one of the bigger episodes for Supergirl in terms of her heroics to prove to herself, I think more than to anybody, that she is a hero even without the superpowers, because the city is starting to be like, well, I don't know, Supergirl's not coming back, you guys. I don't know what she's doing, but we got to figure something out. So to have Supergirl go into the place where the robbers are messing around in the convenience store, and she's actually I don't know if it's risky and brave or if it's stupid of her to have gone in there, because she was taking a real big chance that they were not going to shoot her. I guess she's really very confident in her hope speeches to know that she could probably talk those guys down.
And at this point in her career, she's really only had a couple hope speeches. So she's really hanging a lot. This isn't like season 6 Kara, who's just like, baby, this hope speech is gonna get it. It's gonna get it done. It's May. I've got a speech in my pocket and I'm ready to go. This is early season Kara, so she's only given a couple of these, and I thought that was a great scene because she's actually risking her life in that scene. Which we don't really see her, do too much in these kind of like ground level fights. And even like when she's fighting, some of the aliens, they can hurt her, but often they're not going to like kill her. But James tries to tell her, you can't go, you can't do that. You can't go in there because they could kill you. They could actually shoot you. And I like how she goes, they don't know that, which I thought was really great. I was like, sure, I like the moxie on you, Supergirl. But I thought it was great of her to like connect with him on a human level and say, like, I don't think that you really want to do this. And then James taking that kind of like iconic photo of the guy giving her the gun, I think was also a really nice way to have him in the story in a way that made sense with as Jimmy Olsen, essentially.
Yeah.
Which we don't get a lot of, so I just appreciate it when we do get it.
Yeah, he even talked about his first camera. Did you latch onto that? He talked about his dad giving him a camera. So this is the starting point of Guardian in terms of planting that seed about the camera, about his dad's camera. So the Jimmy Olsen photographer in this episode is very important.
Yeah, I liked that we got a lot of like Jimmy Olsen photographer about town in this one, because it's a really important part of his character. And a lot of the times he was either a superhero in his run on the show or a love interest or being thrown out of a limousine while it was still moving. And he didn't always get to be an award-winning photographer. So I thought in this one, this was a great episode for him because he's in there with her. It's also dangerous for him. And he knows it's dangerous for her, but he's got to get that shot. He's got to get that shot because he's a photographer. And, you know, we know the tragic fate of his camera. So it is kind of hard. It's like seeing an old favorite character that you know gets killed off, where you're like, oh, not the camera, not the camera.
This is the good time period. These were the good old days where the camera was still alive and well. New Rachel says in the chat or asks, really, didn't Kara tell James later that he couldn't be a superhero because he didn't have powers and could easily be killed, just like he tells her here? I am pretty sure they had that conversation. So I guess for Kara, she probably thinks that this is a temporary situation, which it was. But for James, unless he has a freak turtle accident, like a turtle radiation accident, he's probably not going to get superpowers. So it's a different situation for James.
If only.
If only.
We were so close. We could have had it all.
They had Jimmy Olsen on the show for like 5 seasons and no Turtle Boy Jimmy Olsen. It's still so disappointing. But yeah,
Tragic.
so Kara had to deal with not being able to save people and struggling without her powers. But some people did step up when she was absent with her superpowers, and one of them was Kat Grant. So, Morgan, what did you think about Kat pulling together her broadcast aspect of Catco and really getting out there, getting the news out to the people?
Well, there was what happened is that Supergirl didn't have her powers, and this created a hole in the hope speech market. And Kat Grant is nothing but a savvy businesswoman who is like, now I'm going to give the people what they want, what they're clamoring for, an inspirational speech delivered by television by a blonde. That's what they need. That's what they need in this time of trouble. We don't have the right blonde for it, but I can be that blonde. I also like in this one, it's like the first time she's noticed Win, even though he sits like literally outside of her office. That was that made me laugh a lot. That she calls him like Wit. She can't get his name. She doesn't care.
Yeah, she calls him a few different names. One of them was Wit, and one of them was Wick. So not even close. I don't think. But yeah, he's been there all this time, right next to Kara, and she's never noticed him.
And then when he finally does set up the live stream for her, she's like, or when he's having difficulty setting up the live stream, she's like, we're short staffed, so I can't fire you. So instead, I'm going to inspire you. I thought she was like about to like get out the jazz hands. I was like, oh, she's rhyming. Uh-oh, is she going to start spitting some truth? And she does. She inspires him to figure out how to work a live stream. 2015 was a different time. I still and always want to know, what's Catco's deal? Do they have a television station?
Yeah, they have like a television network, I think. It's either a network or they just have a production facility. I'm not really sure. And we never get like the Catco news.
Yeah, because we know that they have a radio station.
Sure. Leslie Willis, Live and Wired.
Live Wire.
Yeah.
Presumably, they must have a TV station, because how else is Supergirl giving all of these live broadcasts? But like, what is the programming that they're breaking into to give these hope speeches? That's what I want to know. Is it like we now interrupt this special programming of Dallas to, and then it like Cat goes on, or is it like, is she like, like a news station?
I think it's like a 24-hour cable news station is what I imagine it to be. But anytime we see like a news anchor on the show, it's never like a Catco.
No, I know. That's why I question it.
Yeah, so I don't know what they call themselves, but they do have a news facility. James had to coordinate things once to do that when Kat was out of the office. So there are many instances where they talk about the news television aspect of Catco. So there is that. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, New Rachel also asked, didn't we have some kind of TV news station when Dreamer gave her interview? Yeah, I mean, they're all the time doing on-air broadcast interviews from the Catco offices, usually in Kat's office. You would think that they would have a studio or like a green screen setup or something else other than someone's personal office. That's a really strange place
You also
to do an
think that
interview.
would be kind of the worst place you could possibly do a sit down interview with a person, because the wall of monitors behind Kat, I feel like
Reflections,
would
glares.
drive me insane. Like I'd be trying to look at Kat, but I would be looking at all of the monitors.
She also has a lot of glass from her balcony doors.
That natural light's not going to be great on camera. Not as good as you think, I think. If it's a bright day, it's not going to look nice.
And to that point, they rarely ever bring in additional lighting setups.
No.
I find it very unbelievable for those interviews.
Yeah, when
So,
she gave her her heroic speech, I was like, you don't want to pop up a ring light? I don't. Okay. We have critiques of the business arrangements that are going on over there. I just truly don't know. But I did like her inspirational speech. I think it really got people through.
She did request makeup, so there's that kind of
That's
broad,
true.
paying attention to being on television. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know how many bosses would choose to inspire you rather than fire you. I don't know that that's a real world business practice. But for this situation, Kat chose to inspire. So I thought that was really nice that she did fill that hole in the market with Supergirl gone. And I love the reason why she did it. It wasn't necessarily to give the people hope. It was to protect her product. She was like, I don't want people to badmouth my creation, so I'm going to go and defend her and keep this brand alive. So it wasn't as altruistic as some people may have thought it was.
She's like, I've got a whole line of like Supergirl products coming out, and if people don't like her anymore, what am I gonna do with all these t-shirts?
I'm gonna have this whole stock here and I gotta sell it.
Exactly. Yeah, I really liked that. And then I also really liked the scene at the end with Kat and Supergirl after Kara's gotten her powers back, and she visits Kat as Supergirl, and she's just like, I saw the speech, as somebody who makes a lot of speeches, it was really good. I feel like I would be so honored if somebody who gave that many hope speeches came to me and was like, listen, that was a good one. I'd be like, she knows good speeches. It's all she does. The end of every season, she saves the day with a speech. So if my speech got like an A+ from Supergirl, I gotta feel good about myself.
And she made a special effort to come see me to tell me that.
Exactly.
So
I mean, she could be anywhere. But she flew on over to say hi. Come on. I also like that Kat was like, you can't just disappear. Like, people needed you. And I thought that was such a good scene between the two of them. It's one of the things I like the most in season 1 is the between Kara Supergirl and Kat Grant, I think is such a nice relationship between the two of them. And there's always like a little bit of tension because Kat barely ever pays attention to Kara. But I think they have such a strong like relationship, and Kara kind of learns so much from Kat, and Kat learns a lot from Kara as well. And so, yeah, I feel like the subsequent seasons really missed having Kat Grant's presence on the show. And this is definitely an episode where I felt that like this could really only be a season 1 episode because Kat was such a big part of it.
Yeah, Kat always taught Kara things, and Kara was able to grow from her interactions and lessons from Kat. And I always thought Kat was a good mentor for Kara. So I do miss that about season 1. Before we move on, I wanted to get to this question from Superhero Dreamer asking, do you think that Kara was mentally prepared to deal with going without powers in this episode, knowing good fact that she's been a Kryptonian her whole life. I don't know, Morgan. What do you think about that? Do you think that maybe on Krypton, Kara probably got hurt? I imagine she might have felt pain on Krypton.
That's a good point. I think she was mostly just kind of a normal person on Krypton. But I mean, I think she's been super for a really long time. Like if you think about maybe say like you lived in one place until you were 12 and then you live somewhere else for the next however for 15 years or so, I feel like you would kind of remember the stuff from when you were little, but not as much as you'd remember the stuff from a couple of years ago. I think you would adjust to having superpowers pretty fast.
And she was also stuck in the Phantom Zone for a long time. So so I think that time in the Phantom Zone probably made her forget some things, and she didn't have those experiences much anymore. So I think there is some of that Kara was just so far removed from having to deal with any kind of pain. So she definitely, I don't think, was mentally prepared at all for any of the physical pain that she experienced. She might have had to deal with some emotional pain in the past, like with saying goodbye to Krypton and things like that. But the physical pain definitely was something pretty new for Kara. All right, so I think the next big thing that we should talk about, because what I think is really impressive about this episode, and probably most of the episodes in season 1, is that all the characters have a storyline. They all have something to do. There's a way that they all contribute. And Supergirl and Kara, they both have a storyline, but so does Alex. Alex and Jean. Well, I shouldn't call him Jean until we talk about the end of the episode.
Alex and
but
Hank.
Right, Hank in quotation marks. Alex and Hank are sharing a storyline that's really more about Alex, but by the end of it, it's definitely a Hank Jean story. So, Morgan, what did you think about Alex trying to figure out more about what happened to Jeremiah, and her learning that Hank is not really Hank, and he's the last son of Mars?
I thought this was such a good episode because both of like the kind of A and B stories are both so strong. So sometimes you'll be watching an episode of something and you'll be really into like one of the stories, and then they'll flip over to the other story and you're like, no, I don't care. Go back. And this can happen. This happened on Supergirl, I feel like. I don't want to say a good amount, but like it happens sometimes where you'd be like really into like the main story, and then it would flip over and the other story would be like, okay, well, we're making a bundt cake. And you're like, no, William, back to the other story. You don't care about your baking. Or it would be like some like romantic drama that you didn't care that much about. Meanwhile, like Supergirl is about to die, and then they'd be like, we need to talk about our romantic issues like later. But in this one, I really like that like the story with Supergirl is really compelling. She's lost her powers. There's a lot of stake. She could get hurt. She could die. And then you flip over and Alex is trapped in this like hostage situation with an alien who reads minds, who's taking people out one by one. She's stuck with Hank, who is untrustworthy at this point. Like if you're watching it without the knowledge of like what's to come, like who can she trust? You're really in that with Alex. And I thought that really worked so well for this episode, where both storylines were kind of like running. They were both like equally as stressful and dramatic, where it didn't feel like the narrative like ground to a halt so that we could talk about somebody's relationship issues and then like back to somebody fighting for their lives. And this one was really good in terms of like the way that her story built up, where, you know, she's seeing this evil alien and we know that she doesn't trust Hank, and then they get trapped inside the building. And I really liked the way that they sort of seeded the doubts of like, wait, like Hank is now the only one who made it out from another miraculous situation. I liked when she turned to the one guy who, like, R.I.P. That she ends up going out into try to, save the situation with, and goes like, this is the second time that Hank has been the sole survivor in one of these incredibly, suspicious situations. Like, does that not strike you as odd? And he's like, oh yeah, that's not great, is it? So I think that they built up the drama around who is Hank Henshaw and like what is he up to, and like, is he trying to hurt Alex? I think that they made that really dramatic so that when you get the opposite of that, and that you finally get the reveal story about who he actually is, it's really satisfying. And it's also really shocking because, like, this episode is working real hard to make you not trust that guy.
Yeah, and they do a good job of even teasing the Martian Manhunter aspects of Jean, because Hank is talking to Jim as he's in prison about the psychic connection, and it sort of makes you wonder if Jean could have handled him. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a little bit of a noise, and I don't know where that came from. So I imagine
it wasn't cats. I was getting.
Oh, okay.
Delivery.
I was like, is there a situation? Okay. But so there are a couple of instances where they sort of tease things where Jim even threatens Hank about killing all of his family, and he's basically like, well, there's no one left. So there's a lot of teases early in the episode, kind of foreshadowing to the end reveal of Martian Manhunter. So I think they set that up really, really well. And I think for those first 7 episodes, they did. I have to hand it to the show. It did a really good job of getting you to the point where the Martian Manhunter reveal made sense, and it was rewarding to get there by the end of it. So I think they handled that very well. And I liked that it was just Alex and Jean in that reveal. Eventually, Supergirl's going to find out, but I like here in this episode, it's just with Alex.
Yeah, and I feel like throughout the show, Alex and Jean have kind of a special bond. And I mean, he has a bond with all of his space kids. But I think his bond with Alex has always been really strong. And this is kind of the beginning of understanding why that is because he made that promise to her dad that he was going to watch out for her. And obviously we know from the future that we find out that he lost his whole family on Mars, including his 2 daughters, right? I think they were both daughters, right?
It was 2. Sometimes the show would say daughter, and it's like, no, he had 2. He definitely had 2.
Post crisis, he might have lost an additional daughter. But so I mean, I think it does kind of draw a line under that like these 2 girls remind him of his daughters, and he kind of takes them under his wing. But he was like explicitly asked to by Jeremiah when he was dying.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jeremiah like fake die, like roll into those bushes, never to be found again? Like how did Hank not know to like check for a pulse? Like what was the situation there? What if like Hank was like really bad at like he just got to Earth, he was bad at peopling, right? And and Jeremiah's just like, I'm dead, and Hank was like, well, there it is. I guess it's gone.
Yeah, so we do get more background information on Jeremiah Danvers and his connection to Jean Jones. And I think we'll probably see that story later on I think we're going to get to it in Rewind. So I think we'll address it when we get there. But this is more of the show developing the idea that Alex will want to find her father, but she never really succeeds in that. He comes back, but she doesn't seem to put a lot of effort into it. So,
no.
So there is that.
I did like how dramatic the reveal was for him, though. Like I love that it's a scene between him and Alex, and then we get to see Martian Manhunter for the first time in this episode because she's like, okay, well, if you're not Hank, who are you? And he's like, here is the reveal of my CGI. And it is amazing. For a second, I thought that the CGI was trying to make him like super, super tall. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't seem like a smart choice because later on he's just as tall as David Harewood. But no, it was just like a downshot camera angle.
Yeah, he does look significantly bigger, but I think it's just the magic of the camera angle, as you mentioned. Yeah, I think they did a really good job with the reveal. Even the dialogue of the "Who are you?" I think it's so profound in a way that she forces him to confront who he really is. He's been faking his whole, well, not his whole life, but for a large amount of his life on Earth. He's been faking who he is as this guy Hank Henshaw, and here now he has somebody he can share that with. So that's a big deal for him. So I really like that moment as well. We do have a question. Were you about to get to but from CM Gutier 74, who asks, since we know Jean, aka Hank, can read minds, do you think that he was fully aware of Alex's distrust of him? So,
Ooh.
Morgan, do you think he was reading Alex's mind?
I don't think so. I think that he probably wanted to respect her privacy. And it didn't seem like he was super aware of the fact that she was distrustful of him until like she chained him to a radiator and left him there. She's like, bye. He's like, you are getting fired, young lady.
I think maybe she doesn't trust me anymore.
Listen, he's putting her on some kind of pip. She's going to be on a performance action plan for sure. Like, Car's going to get back and she's going to, have you been demoted to desk duty? Well, I did chain up my boss in a storage closet. I feel like it's kind of frowned upon. Because he did seem surprised that she was doing it. He was like, oh no, what's happening here? So I feel like if he had been reading her mind, he maybe should have seen that one coming.
Yeah, I don't even think with Alex he would have to read her mind. She acted like, oh, I can totally play this off. It's no big deal. He'll never know. But I think sometimes Alex, her emotions could maybe get the better of her at some point. I think she probably eventually would have given herself away. Which she does when she basically just confronts him one-on-one. So I don't know. It would be a waste of his time and effort to read her mind when all of that presents itself in a normal way. So it wouldn't have been something he would have needed to do, I don't think.
I guess my question is about Jem, who was in fact truly amazing. First off, is this like a DC Comics villain, or is this somebody new for the show?
No, Jem is featured in the comics. I'm trying to pull up first appearance. I wonder if I have that in my old notes. Let me see. Jem says, I am Jem, master of the Faceless Hunters, conqueror of 12 worlds. So I don't have it necessarily in my notes. I'm going to try to find in the
I
DC
see on
Comics
Wikipedia that he is the analog of Martian Manhunter, who he is an occasional ally. It says the first appearance was in 1984. And his other alias, according to Wikipedia, is Son of Saturn. So I guess if you're a big fan and you happen to know who he is, that might have tipped their hand a little bit on the Martian Manhunter thing if you kind of like read between the lines.
Yeah, you would have been like, Jem, that's an interesting choice.
Huh. Fascinating. Isn't he usually
of all the DC characters you could have put in there?
Usually insert. Of course, to be fair, the Arrowverse shows were often just throwing in whoever, and it would often you'd be like, "Ooh, reading between the lines. Does this mean XYZ?" And I was like, "No, not really.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't mean Mr. Bones is coming. Doesn't mean Snapper's gonna snap or lose his hand or turn into Starzar. None of that's gonna happen necessarily."
Yeah, just FYI, I think it's at least 4 episodes of Stargirl in. I haven't seen this week's episode. no Mr. Bones. I'm
so
incredibly
offended.
disappointed. It's a lot of Starman, which fine, but you
Alright.
promised me Mr. Bones.
You
And now
cannot
all I'm
promise
getting is
us.
Starman.
You don't promise people a man made of bones, a walking skeleton in a suit, smoking a cigar, and then think we're gonna be happy with anything else. I don't care how much Joel McHale's in it.
I mean, he's fine,
He's great.
but Mr. Bones
But
is
Mr.
what I
Bones.
was promised.
This
Yes,
spooky season to deny us of Mr. Bones is just cruel.
that would have been perfect. Mr. Bones and Infinity Inc. Oh, that would have been. Oh, actually, not Infinity. Infinity
No,
Inc.
I think you're right. I think it was an Infinity Inc. Right?
But what I'm trying to remember. Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to look this up now. Because was it? But I think Infinity Inc. was the hero team. Who was
No, I
he
think
with?
that
He was with Helix. He was with both technically. He
Oh,
joined
Helix.
Infinity Inc. later, but he started out with Helix with like Penny Dreadful and Baby Boom and
Baby
Critter.
Boom. I was like, what's the weird baby's name again? Baby Boom. Remember when she had her punk phase? God bless her.
She just wanted to be called Babe.
I'm not Baby Boom anymore. I'm Babe. Listen, you can never give yourself your own nickname. You should know that. Baby Boom.
Yeah, so there's been no mention of Infinity Inc. or Helix. So just a side note about Stargirl. If you are interested, Jem is in Jem, Son of Saturn #1. That's his first appearance from September 1984. So yeah, Jem is a comic book character pulled from the source material. So there is that. So Morgan, before we wrap up with final thoughts, are there any other things that you wanted to discuss about the episode?
Yeah, I guess so. I had two things. One was a question about Jem's powers and Martian Manhunter's powers. So like Jem has the ability to like control minds. Is that why Jean was just kind of fine? Because he's got psychic powers as well. So like could Jem even begin to try to control his mind? Like what was this what was the situation there, do we think?
So versus the DEO agents who wore the
I mean, I
neural
don't think
inhibitors.
Yeah, I don't think that they had a chance really, but like I think Jean was just like, "Rrr," like, you know, put the two fingers against the temple and it's lights out. Once you think real hard with those two fingers against the temple, what can you do?
Yeah, well, first I would, if I had been the DEO tech team that had been responsible for the neural inhibitors, I would have been really disappointed in myself.
Ooh, those people
Wow,
are tired, probably.
those people, their products did not do much good of anything. But I think Jean, I think to your point, I think he was maybe at least as powerful as Jem, probably more powerful. So I think that was why he didn't have any problems, and everybody else had those issues where they were taken over by Jem or they were killed by Jem. Jean probably didn't have those issues, and that's why he was the last one standing and didn't have any issues. So I think you're correct.
And then I see that there's a question in the chat from Lindsay. She says, I want to know what Alex's plan was if she had turned out to be right about him. Was she planning to leave him chained there? And what was she going to tell the rest of the DEO?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, like what if he was evil? She's like, I got him in the closet.
I guess that would have been something to think about, whether or not she knew that he was an alien, if she thought he was just a regular dude. But he broke free from her handcuffs. So it's like, what do you do? Like, she could have gone and run to her, like, I don't know, the president. Who's the higher up above the director of the DEO? I guess it's the president.
I don't know.
So I guess she could have reported him to HR or something, but he's just gonna break out of those handcuffs. It'd be fine. He'd be okay.
They have like one of those HR investigations where they're like, "Are you an evil alien?"
That would have been Pam
like,
from HR.
Pam from HR is like, "Listen, this is very awkward, but Alex thinks you killed her dad. Do you have a defense for that?" And he'd be like, I didn't do it. She's like, that seems reasonable. What what an awkward HR investigation that would be. Did you kill another employee's checks notes father? Pam from HR, thankless job.
She actually appeared on one of the episodes, didn't she? I remember people like screaming at us on Twitter about her making an appearance. New Rachel asks, was Pam from HR there at this point? I would like to believe that Pam from HR, she's been there forever. She knows everybody's secrets. She knows everything that's happening. She, like Pam from HR is the worst person to be on the bad side of because she knows everybody's business.
You want to be nice to Pam from HR.
You want to be nice to Pam from HR. She knows all the dirt.
And then my only other thing was the Kara James Wynn drama. I just did not like it in this one. I wish it wasn't there. They have that one scene where James tells her about the camera and Kara gets emotional about like her not having powers. And then they have a hug, which was not, I think it was supposed to read romantic, but it didn't at all for me. I don't know if that was like a trouble with the performance or with the direction.
Or you're just cold-hearted.
Or I just have no heart and don't like them together. Anything is possible. But I feel like what we were supposed to be feeling was like romantic tension, not necessarily like I was in the scene. I was like, oh, it's so nice of them comforting each other. But I think we were supposed to feel them like having a moment where they're like, uh-oh, are we going to cross a line? And I did not feel that in that scene. But then Wynn walks in is like, sorry to interrupt. Like he had seen them like undressing or something. And I was like, Wynn, aren't we being a little melodramatic here? And then at the end, he's like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. And it's like, listen, Wynn, you're not her mother. This is not helping your case romantically.
Well, he made it more about, James has a girlfriend. So you shouldn't be doing that. So that was the reason
about James's girlfriend.
Who, by the way, apparently is moving in with James. They went from like vacationing at Ojai to like moving in together. How much time has passed?
Oh my God. Things are just really progressing. I mean, I know that they broke up and got back together, but like maybe think about the reasons you broke up before you move in together. Moving is hard, you guys. Don't do it. Don't do it unless you're sure.
They're really committed now. So I think that's what Wynn was at least telling Kara that he was upset about, was that Kara was moving in on Lucy's territory, I guess.
Yeah, it seemed a little forced in the episode, and I kind of wish that they had just left that one little bit out because it didn't feel needed. And also it made Wynn like look a little bit like a jerk.
He was kind of terrible to her.
It's like, come on, Wynn, calm down, would ya? Like you're not disappointed in her. You're just disappointed. Like don't try it, Wynn.
To be fair, he did spend all day with Kat.
That's true. He was probably a little testy.
He had to set up technical stuff for Kat, and she was berating him a little bit. So he probably had a rough day.
He was like, I haven't done like a live stream since like high school, and Kat was trying to think. I was like, when Kat tries to think back to like, I was a normal person just like you once, and she can't do it. She was like, well, actually, I was a noted columnist, and she's like, forget all that I said about being normal. I was never normal.
Yeah. So Daryl in the chat says Wynn just needs to meet a nice alien girl to get over Kara. So maybe he will one of those days. But then he'll forget all about her and she'll never be mentioned again. So that will probably happen for him. Okay, so I guess overall thoughts. What did you think about this episode, Morgan? Did you like it, dislike it? What did you think?
Overall, I think this was one of the maybe the strongest episodes of season 1. I just think that all the storylines really were really strong. The Kara stuff was really good. The Kat stuff was really good. Alex and John had really good stuff, and like you really can't do better than that Martian Manhunter reveal in terms of like really spinning the show in a different way than when we first started the season. Kind of you have to like sort of rethink how you thought about that character And I thought it was really fun the way that they did that, and they sort of built the mystery up, and then the reveal did pay it off. Sometimes they'll build up these mysteries, as we know, and then the payoff literally doesn't exist because we'll never know about Leviathan. But in this case, the payoff was worth it.
Yeah. Oh man, let's not bring up Leviathan. That is a mystery we will never solve. But yeah, I think this was a strong episode. All the characters had something to do. They all had something that mattered, that had weight to it. Kara's storyline was really strong. Gave her a lot of good character growth in this one. So this is probably, I think, one of the better episodes of season 1. Because it's solid all around, and does something new and different for Kara in the show, and has a lot of big reveals in this one. A lot of big things are happening, so it's a pretty momentous episode of season 1, and one of the most, I guess, momentous episodes of the show. Well, I guess we need to go back to the future. We gotta we gotta hop in our DeLorean and go back to the future from 2015 into the present of 2022. So we'll do a little time travel and get back to 2022. All right, now that we're here, we've gotten back. We've returned back from the past into the future. So before we wrap up this episode of a Supergirl Radio, I think we need to make some snap judgments about this episode.
In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended, and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay. Our first snap judgment is, what's a worse medical problem, being sick or breaking your arm?
I mean, they both stink.
They're both pretty bad.
They're both pretty bad. Breaking your arm, I think, takes depending on what you're. I sort of came up with the snap judgment in like having a cold, not like being sick with a more severe illness. So I guess maybe having a cold or breaking your arm is kind of the thing we're going for here. I'd probably say breaking your arm. It takes longer to heal. It's probably more painful. You probably have more pain, and you're sort of incapacitated a little bit. You can't move part of your body. So I would say breaking your arm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go breaking your arm too. I've only ever broken my baby toe, so I have not.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I know.
Although toe breaks, that.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to heal from that?
It was a little while. It turns out that they won't cast it because it's a toe. I did ask. I was like, oh, I broke something. Finally, I'll get like the cast, and people can sign my baby toe cast, and very smally. They won't do it. They were like, that's a weird ask, and I was like, but I thought you casted everything that broke, and they're like, not that. It took a couple weeks, so it wasn't pleasant. So I would say breaking a bone is probably worse because the recovery time is so much longer.
Yeah, I had a foot fracture, and it took me probably 6 months to get over that. So it was not fun.
Yeah, Kat and Sarah have both broken their foot, and it seems like it scares me because it seems like it's very easy. Every story I hear about people who have like broken or fractured their foot is like, I stepped weird and then I couldn't walk right for a month. And it's like, what?
The only thing I remember is I think I don't know exactly how it happened, but I think it had something to do with my medicine ball. The rare occurrence of me working out at home, and I busted my foot. So I must have dropped it on my foot or like kicked it accidentally or so. I don't know what happened, but
those are pretty heavy.
It was not pleasant.
No fun. Okay. Best Cat Grant name for Win. Wit or Wick?
I like Wick because it's not even really a name, maybe a last name like a John Wick. But at least with Wit, it could come across like a name. But Wick is kind of like, how did you even get there? So I think I'm gonna pick Wick.
See, I'm going to go with Wit because it sounds like it could be a name. And then you think about it and you're like, I don't think I know anybody ever who's named Wit. And then you're like, oh, would it be like short for something like Whitney?
Like Whitney?
Yeah. But then like, she's definitely not on a first name basis with this guy, and definitely not on a nickname basis. So like, what did she think it was? So that one I thought was really funny. I especially liked it because she calls him Wit, and he like looks around for whoever Wit is, and then he figures out, oh my God, is that me? And then who gives the best hope speeches? Supergirl or Cat Grant? Now this is a big question.
This is a big one that's really going to test, I think, both of our viewerships of the show and of the characters of Kara and Supergirl and Cat Grant. This is gonna be a hot take, but I'm gonna say Cat Grant because Cat Grant's, I think, to we talk about Supergirl hope speeches all the time, and it does seem like Kara just kind of mad libs them, like puts in the situation for now and an adjective and things like that. But I think with Cat, when Cat has to do it, it's because something is serious. And when she does it, she speaks from the heart. It's improvised. She had a speech prepared in this episode, but she put it down and she spoke from the heart. So it felt more genuine with Cat. Sometimes with Supergirl, it seems like a retread sometimes, like she has to do it. But I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to pick Cat Grant.
That is very controversial. I cannot believe it. I'm gonna go with Supergirl.
Oh, does that make you the better Supergirl fan?
I think it does. And because listen, this is really her niche. This is her genre. This is where she shines. This is what she knows. Like that would be like saying like Simone Biles is not the best gymnast, right? Like there's other great gymnasts, right? But like Supergirl is hitting those crazy moves that only Supergirl can do. She doesn't need to think up different kinds of hope speeches because she's really nailed this one. Sure, do they all sound a little bit similar? Of course. How many different ways can you tell people to hope? Why aren't these people ever just listening to her? Why does she keep giving these hope speeches? I think that that Supergirl has really gone out there and perfected the art form. And I feel like Cat has really learned at the feet of the master there. She's given a hope speech at this point, I think, in the show. So yeah, I have to go with Supergirl because it is what she is best at. It's also how she saves the day, like 5 out of 6 times.
Yeah. So in Human for a Day, she loses her powers, but does she? She still has the superpower of the hope speech.
Can never take those hope speeches away from her.
No judgments on your snap judgments.
All right. Thank you for playing Snap Judgments. That's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio Rewind. And I think we now need to get to some Supergirl Radio and some DC TV plugs.
If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link
at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DCTV podcast network, so if you also like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, and the upcoming Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, and Strange Adventure shows, and DCTV After Dark, you can subscribe to the DCTV Podcast Mega Feed on Apple Podcasts. Follow at DCTV Podcasts on Twitter, and like DCTV Podcasts on Facebook, or else. This has been a message from Hope, inhabiting the Flash vessel, also known as New Rachel.
And since this episode featured human beings being brave, we have Alex Danvers and Guardian Pop Funko designs in the DCTV Podcast T Public store that we'd like to suggest.
Yeah, you can get all kinds of mugs in the T Public store.
I don't know why the phrase Guardian Funko Pops like really threw me off, but I was like, what does it mean? So just in case you were wondering if I temporarily forgot how to read the English language, it was my brain like struggling to figure out what I was reading.
Yeah, so there are Funkos in the the DCTV Podcast T Public store. They're not the Funkos that you get in the box, but they're Funko designs that can go on T-shirts and hoodies and masks and mugs and all kinds of things, stickers. So if you want to grab some of those, highly recommend them from the DCTV Podcast T Public store. So just wanted to highlight the humans who, went in there when they could have been hurt, but they were brave about it. All right. So since we took a few weeks off, Morgan, we didn't get a chance to promote the DCTV Podcast.
That is true.
Plugs contest.
We got to keep plugging plug contest.
Yeah, so we didn't get a chance to plug the plug contest. So we're going to give it a couple more weeks to continue to promote it and to keep getting the word out about it. So basically, what we are asking listeners to do is to help Morgan out, because Morgan, she's done the plugs for a long time.
I don't want to.
And she doesn't want to anymore. So
I have earned the right to not have to read a list of names. You saw how I just read the phrase Guardian Funko Pop. You don't want me to do all the podcasts like that.
So we are requesting, if you would like to participate, to do the plugs for us. So you can record yourself reading the names of the podcasts of the DCTV Podcast Network, which are, of course, Supergirl Radio, The Flash Podcast, Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, The Lituation Room, DC on HBO Max Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Superman and Lois Radio, Green Lantern Podcast, The Sandman Podcast, Justice League Dark Podcast, and of course, DCTV After Dark. So if you want to record yourself and send us an MP3 WAV or M4A audio file, you can send that to supergirlradio@gmail.com. And now we're going to say the deadline is October 31st. So we're going to give you a couple more weeks to send those in since we didn't get a chance to promote it while we were taking a little bit of a break. So if you would like to win a couple of fun prizes and be featured on Supergirl Radio, this is a great way to do it. And really, it'll help Morgan out so that she doesn't have to do them anymore. So we are going to continue that contest for a couple of more weeks. Also, we would like to give a shout out to our Legion of Super Sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Leslie, Irmgard, Miriam, Nicole, Lizeth, Faith, Brian, Ethan, and Danny. And if you would like to become a Supergirl Radio Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We have 4 monthly levels that you can choose from. And we really appreciate everybody's support of the Patreon. Also, if you would like to follow me and keep up with what I'm doing, you can check me out on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I also have a YouTube channel that you can find at youtube.com/duckmilkprod, where I usually live stream on Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, and I read through Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice reviews written by the top critics of Rotten Tomatoes. It is quite the eye-opening project that I've been doing. I recently did one from the Toronto Sun, which I was very confused about whether or not the reviewer actually liked Ben Affleck's Batman, or did he think he was okay? I'm not really sure if he hated him or liked him. I don't know what was happening. There were also a lot of mistakes in spelling and grammar, and I was just very confused about the whole thing. And I question all the time whether or not these people should be the authorities on good taste. So this is quite the project. So if you want to go talk about art criticism and go on this journey with me, that's Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Also, I just randomly one time said, I want to talk about the Disenchanted trailer. And so I did for 38 minutes. So if you want some Amy Adams content, I'm making that part of my brand as well. She's
definitely.
Yeah, Disenchanted is DCEU adjacent through Amy Adams. So I think it's part of why people come to my YouTube channel. So you can definitely check me out there if you want some more DC content.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me, and this is going to be shocking, on DC TV After Dark, where we might have just recorded an episode, perhaps?
What? Does that deserve Feeding the Ducks music?
Yeah, it does. Dance along, people. Just get excited. When's it coming out? TBD. But we have recorded an episode. We should have it out in the next week or so. We talked to Rachel from the Batwoman podcast. We had her back. We got to ask her to weigh in on the mermaids versus werewolf situation, because we hadn't been asking that the last time she was there. And her answer might surprise you. So you're just gonna have to tune in to find out. Also, if you're a big K-pop fan, this is the episode for you to listen to, because there's a lot of K-pop talk in it, like a lot of it. So strap in. It is fun. We had a great time, so that will be up on the podcast feed. And as always, the best way to know when a new episode is coming is just to subscribe and then let it be a fun little surprise. And then I'm also a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where we finally got to watch the pilot pod for my fantasy draft win. Last season for Legends of Tomorrow, we did a draft of the characters, kind of like people do for fantasy football. And then at the end of the season, we had a winner, and it was my team because I had Sarah Lance, which was an unfair advantage. I only had 2 characters. Everybody else had like 4, and I still somehow won. So I got to pick our next pilot pod. And I was trying to think of like, how am I gonna pick something that Amy and Kat are going to be equally annoyed with? And I couldn't figure it out. So instead, I just went with something I thought would be fun. So we watched the pilot of Wheel of Time, the Amazon Prime show, and I had Mike on because Wheel of Time is his all-time favorite book series, and so we got to talk about Wheel of Time. So that episode should be coming out this week, and then after that, we're going to be doing Spooky Swap. So we'll be spending the rest of October watching spooky stuff. So if you're excited about any of that, you should definitely check out the podcast.
So much good stuff coming in the Morgan Glennon podcast universe. I'm excited. That is good to know about all those new episodes coming down the pipe.
I never know.
I think it makes sense to be pipe coming down the pipe.
That makes
put things down a pipe. What is pike anyway? I don't know what that means.
They flow naturally down a pipe.
Right? I'm gonna say pipe. I think
that seems accurate.
Well, in any case, whether it's pipe or pike, that's gonna do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And thanks for joining us for Supergirl Radio Rewind.
McGurk! I
Do
love
not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because of her outfit.
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Is Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!